principio era il silenzio. Poi venne la prima nota. Un suono primordiale, nessuno a udirlo. La musica generò se stessa come specchio della realtà. E la musica creò gli umani perché la ascoltassero. E loro inventarono le arti per celebrare i misteri della creazione. Diedero vita alle loro divinità e leggende, gli dei, imperfetti come i loro creatori. Furono vittime degli impulsi oscuri, tipici dell'uomo. L'umanità si issò in cima a un monte fatto di dei caduti, designandosi vetta. Alcuni, più ribelli, scoprirono il potere delle arti di plasmare la realtà secondo i loro desideri. Pulcinella, il menestrello del cambiamento. Arlecchino, il re del teatro. Capitan Spaventa, il sole di Meridiana. Pantalone, il mercante del destino. Balanzone, l'araldo della conoscenza. Colombina, la santa del palcoscenico. Gli autori vergarono il canovaccio, un copione il cui palcoscenico è il mondo intero. Narra il mondo perfetto della loro immaginazione, alterando per sempre la realtà. Così, il canovaccio intrappolò il mondo e le sue creature in un'immobilità eterna, imprigionando ogni essere dietro una maschera nel suo ruolo infinito. In un mondo di maschere, solo una persona senza un ruolo può scegliere il proprio destino e liberare il mondo dall'immobilità.
L'albero del cambiamento reca frutto. Risvegliati senza maschera. Il sipario si è alzato.
Hey everybody, I hope you're all doing great. We're here to talk about Enotria, the last song, which is like an Italian-inspired Soulsborne kind of game. And I liked it. It was pretty good. Like, no complaints at all. My only complaint is that, and you'll see this if you watch the video instead of just listening to me, that I got a little over halfway through the game. Like, I almost got to like, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 4. Wait, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like 5 bosses, like 5 world bosses or big bosses or like main plot bosses, right? And one of them is optional, which we'll get to that. And I had killed the first 3. All right, I was right at like the 3rd one. Yeah, I think that's right. And it's not like as straightforward as that, but you can kind of mark like there's 3 worlds, or 3 large areas, and each one has like a boss, and one of them has like the optional boss as well. And then you go to like the final place, which is just like you climb a bunch of stairs like Castlevania and fight Dracula. Only this time you fight Arikino, I think it's his name. And then when I was like that far in, like 6-7 hours into the game, I was like trying to get something to work on my computer, and I deleted the save files because they were underneath like a different folder set that I was trying to like fix. And I didn't realize that that's where the save files were being held. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done that. It was totally my fault. and all that, and I was like, bro, I'm not gonna go back and play like 7 hours of this game again with all its like, you know, Soulsborne kind of, not jank, but, you know, like falling off cliffs or like having to fight a boss like 4 times. You know, it wouldn't have been that bad. And so then I was like, I'm just gonna give myself like unlimited memoria, is what they call souls in this game. And I'm just going to level my guy up and just kind of like cruise through the game, which is what I did. So, still super enjoyable. I still highly recommend this game if you like this style of games. I feel like it was pretty easy, to be completely honest. Like the parry is like a cheat code for most of these games, because you don't take damage and it usually does bad things to the enemy you're playing against. But in a lot of games, there's like attacks you can't parry. This has no such thing. You can parry like literally everything, magic, whatever. And so it makes the game pretty easy once you get the hang of parrying. Like there was one boss, like one of the quote, like the optional main story boss. That's how I beat him. I just like stood there and parried all his attacks. And then with this game, which is what I think I like about some of these games, they have like it's a stagger meter, so they have the hit points and then a stagger meter. Because like a lot of the Dark Souls specific games kind of have like stagger meters. They don't have the meters. It's just like if you do certain things, they'll like kind of stagger a little bit or like fall back, or like, you know, you can get them into a state where you can like do an ultimate attack on them. This lets you know exactly what you're doing. So I would say, like, Lies of P was pretty easy, I want to say. There was like 1 or 2 guys I struggled with in that game. And AI Limit's the other one that I played more recently as well. I would say AI Limit was harder than Lies of P. And then this is easier than like both of those by like a decent chunk. Like even when I was playing without any cheating or anything, I was kind of just cruising through the game. Like I would beat most bosses within... All the bosses I'd played, I beat within like 3 tries. And then when I cheated again, I didn't make myself invincible or anything. I just kind of like, I just eliminated like all the grind, which makes the game a lot easier because you level everything up, right? And it just makes it so you don't have to spend a lot of time like grinding mats to get your weapons and stuff leveled up. And I like the thing where it's like it has all the good stuff about these games, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. Right, yeah. And I think there might be a way to make it harder. There's like, I think this game, if I remember correctly, has like a story mode and a non-story mode. I think I played the regular mode, but then when I cheated, I also played the story mode. So it was kind of like, unless you're just like really, really bad at these kind of games, it was like super easy to just parry a couple attacks, get their stagger meter up and just destroy them. And then in the new game, and then there's like New Game Plus, probably where like the challenge like truly lies once you kind of establish stuff. But, it has and then the funny thing about it, so you have like all these different kinds of weapons you can use. You have like heavy weapons, heavy clubs, like you can get like a pincer claw at the end of a staff, which was baller. You can get swords. You get these like, you get your magic spells. There's like, you summon different weapons, and that's like a stat. So the stats are pretty basic. There's like, you want to be more defensive, you want to do more damage, you want to have more stamina, or you want to have more like magical capability, right? Like I think there's only 4 if I remember correctly. And then, there's 5. There's one more. I can't remember what that 5th one was. And then you get that, and then you also get this other thing which lets you build like talent skills, and then you can equip different talents to do different builds. So there's lots of options to build the exact kind of build that you want to build, or to mess around with different kinds of builds. There's not really like a magic build. I mean, there is, because you have these they're called mask lines, and so you can build those up, and then you can do more spell stuff. Like, and I was building like a Unga Bunga, as I normally do, with just like big clubs, but then also ranged mask lines, which you just, when you attack and hit things and kill things, it just builds up like your ability to cast the spells. There's not like limited uses or magic points or anything. It's literally just, you hit a guys a few times, and then it's like, now you can use like this ability, and then when you hit more guys, you can use it again, like essentially unlimited. So, but then there's like ones where you can like breathe stuff. There's like, I used all the bow and arrow ones. There's some that just summon like a big sword or do like an area of effect attack. And then they have other abilities too. And then you have masks, and masks give you different abilities, and you get masks from killing guys. So when you kill like a named boss, you get like their mask. And then when you kill like a bunch of like fishermen, you get like the fisherman mask, and they all have different abilities and different like bonuses and whatever. And so that's two things. Oh, and then then you have like the secondary like talent tree, which you can equip up to like 5 of those. And there's like a star chart that you can go like in the assassin route, which is like more damage, or you can go the brute route, which is more defense. You can go, I can't remember what the other two are, but one of them's like more magical capability, and one of them's like movement, dodge, defense, like stamina related stuff. There's 4 elements essentially that all have different kind of like capabilities. So there's like vino, which is wine, which makes you kind of dizzy, and they all have plus and minuses. So when you're dizzy, you do more damage, but you take more damage. And then there's like gratia, which is it's like poison. So when you're fully poisoned, you take damage, but like everyone around you also takes damage. Then there's, I can't remember what it was called, but it's like the holy one. And when you're holy, you heal. When you're fully holy, you heal. But if someone hits you with like a big attack, you explode and does a bunch of damage to yourself. And then there's fuego, which is fire, or like fortale, which I'm trying to remember what it does exactly. It's like I didn't see it too often, but then you get like a little circle in the top corner, which like if you use certain elemental attacks against other elementals, it does more damage, right? So that's cool too. And then you can see it like the life bar of the person you're fighting will have like, if it's poison, it'll be green. If it's, light, it'll be like white, stuff like that. Just kind of give you like more edge on like how you're planning stuff out, and if you want to do and different builds. And you can have 3 builds equipped at one time, and you can literally just press like a button and it'll switch to a different build. So that's cool. And then each build can have 2 weapons, so you can switch. Like I always had like my giant like just club face for like bosses, where I'd wait for them to finish their like little combo attack, and then I would hit them with like a strong attack, and it would do like 1/4 of their damage, 1/4 of their life, like really fuck them up. And then I had like my spear, which is also like a 2-handed kind of slower weapon for like everyday use when I was just like cruising through guys and whatnot. And so that worked out pretty well for me. And then the mask lines, and so you can earn more mask lines and treasure chests. You get them from guys. You get different like aspects from different guys, the masks. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a decent amount of side quests, and you pretty much have to do all the side quests to get like the secret ending. And the endings in this game are the traditional like Dark Souls endings, which are like there's like not much going on there. Like there's 3 endings, and they're in like the grand scheme of like the story, they're all kind of like whatever, the same. The joy of this game, like this game nails like the genre, because it's like the joy is in the exploration and the journey on the way, and there's a lot to explore. And it's not Elden Ring. Elden Ring is the best one of these games by like a country mile. It is so fucking good. And these games, like this is good. I like the AI limit. Lies of P was awesome. I like the I haven't played the new Lords of the Fallen. The old Lords of the Fallen I like. The Surge games are fucking baller. Dark Soul games are all good. Bloodborne's great. I don't consider Sekiro's more like a Ninja Gaiden as far as I'm concerned, because it's far less like an RPG than like, you just find new items and you can like incrementally like improve your skill set or whatnot and make kind of builds. Which Nioh is kind of like the midway point between those two, because it's much more like a Ninja Gaiden game, but you also level and get like items and grind for stuff and whatnot. But anyway, like Nioh and the Final Fantasy one, but they're all good. But again, the story I would not say there's any one of these games where the story is like the story that like what people really get caught up in with a lot of these games, it seems to me, is like the lore, is like the world building, is like the stuff that's going on. Because the actual story for most of these games is like, oh, you're like undead, or you're like a lost one, or you're like a puppet in this game, which is the same story as Lies of P, which is funny. But you're like a puppet that was created, and your whole shebang is to like go and do something, right? And there's like the Messia is the same thing. It's like there's all this lore you can find and stuff, but you wake up and no one tells you shit, and then there's like some prince that speaks like really cryptically to you, and then you kill a bunch of guys, and at the end it's like you have accomplished this task, and you're like, oh, that's what I was doing, got it. That's how this game was. Like, and we'll get into it. So the storytelling in this game is going to be more like kind of my experience as I wandered through it and like figured stuff out about the world. And it's not going to be comprehensive because I really don't play these games for their lore. I play them because they're fucking awesome to play and you feel great getting through like a challenge and it's like and just like wandering about like in crevices or like jumping off cliffs and seeing if you're going to die or seeing if it's going to get you somewhere. Like that's why you play these games. Like, and the stories, like the world can be kind of interesting, but it's like, I don't know. I've never really been blown away by any story in any kind of like Soulsborne style game. Like it's all pretty like rote, if you will. Like it's like the world itself is fascinating and like how people got here and why they're doing and like this individual side quest. But like the main story quest is like an Elden Ring. It's kind of like Elden Ring in that regard. Because I felt the same way about Elden Ring. It's like, oh, you're a Dragonborn and you learn dragon powers and you go fight the dragon guy and then you kill the dragon and save the world. And I was like, that was a thing, I guess. So, like, you know what's much more interesting? The Assassin's like side quest, like guild side quest. That's way more interesting. Like, my werewolf wife, that her whole thing is like way more interesting. It's the Vampire Isles, whatever, right? That is why I'm here. So anyway, yeah. So we'll have some video here and we'll talk about it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really need. Oh, you can jump, which is fun. It's not really like that big of a deal, but you know, it's like an extra thing. Like it's one of those things like after it was like once Elden Ring let you jump, it was like, oh, I never knew I wanted to do this until now. Because even in like the old Dark Souls games, you could do like the double tap on like your roll and jump, but it was like, it was only to get like, it was really to kind of like fuck you over. It was like, you can jump over here to the small ledge if you really want to. You're probably going to die a lot, but if you really want to come get this useless item, you are more than welcome to do it. Fuck you, game. But you did it because it was a challenge, and you play these games for the challenge and for the exploration and for finding hidden stuff. But I really feel like no one has really nailed that I've played the FromSoft, like the core component of the enjoyability of these games, which is like the deep, like mysterious exploration. Like I never feel like even in this game there's like a quest giver guy that is like kind of hidden and you have to do like a different side quest thing to unlock his area. But when you get down, it's not like in Dark Souls there's like whole areas that you can just never go to. Like in the very first game, well, I'm trying to remember if Demon Souls has anything really like that. I don't think Demon Souls did, so maybe not the very first game. Demon Souls had like a whole nother thing with like the dark and the light affinities, which were like, Jesus Christ, man. So yeah, I guess so. Like the FromSoft really nails like, hey, you're playing this game, and even if you think you've explored everything, you probably missed like a fucking random wall you're supposed to hit, or like a switch in like a room that you had to fall off what looked like a cliff that would kill you to like find stuff. Dark Souls 1, it was just like all over the fucking place. Like it's like you pretty much have to like just roll off every edge in the game, and you're gonna find at least like 5 spots that you didn't know even existed, right? And I feel like AI Limit kind of was almost getting there. There was that big room where you had to fall down a whole bunch, but it was more of like an asshole thing, because falling down that hole was like, you look down, you're like, there's shit down there, I gotta go get this. And it was just hard as shit to do. Like even when I was like cheating to make myself invincible, it was like, no, fuck yourself. And this game has, again, it's like it's besides the FromSoft games, it's really not that much like, holy shit. Like, and I'm not the only one. I've read other people had the same experience. When you first find like the elevator that goes down into the earth and there's like a whole other world down there in fucking Elden Ring, you're like, what the fuck is this? And like I've played every one of these games before I played that game, and multiple times, and I was still like, oh my god damn, dude, what the fuck? Anyway, we should get to my experience, I guess, like the plot version of part of this. So now that we've kind of talked about how the game functions and like the mechanisms and all that kind of stuff, to some extent, you got the bare gist of what's going on. We're going to go ahead and walk myself through my experience of this game and kind of like what I took from it and whatnot. So when we start off, we get a fun little scene where we learn that music's started the world, that people then created gods from like these creative sparks, and then at some point they destroyed their gods and built a new city on a mountain of the gods' corpses and whatnot. We get this Elden Ring style intro with all the big bads of the world, which I fucking love that. It's not as awesome as like fucking what was that dude's name? The poop eater or whatever. It was so good. If you know what I'm talking about, look up Elden Ring opening movie or whatever. It's so good. Like I still laugh while I'm thinking about it. It's so good. We learned that the mask thing is like a big deal, that it like ties people's souls or something and all this stuff. And then we find ourselves as a puppet, as I mentioned, like a wooden puppet, not as like a human puppet like Lives of P, just kind of hanging. And then we are freed by somebody and we get like tossed a sword. And this is like the tutorial of the game, right? And if you skip this, you just skip to the end of like this section and there's like a knot. So the bonfires in this game are called knots. And you, what is it? It's like Concordia Restore. You restore the knot, restore the music, right? Because the knot in like the string of music is like causing it so it doesn't, it's dissonant, right? So then you restore the knot, you restore the concordance, right? Instead of the discordance. You get it? I love it. I love this shit. Like, I was like baller. Okay. But in the tutorial, we clear through that. We fight like our first little mini boss guy. You kind of learn how things work. I got the shit kicked out of me until I realized like, oh, parrying in this game is like uber. So let's do that. So then we got our first mask from this guy. So before this, we don't have a mask and therefore like no mask lines. And again, mask lines are kind of like the magic in this game, if you will, where you summon weapons of different kinds and they have different sorts of abilities. And part of that is, different. So like you can have like the same attack, like you can have like bow attack, other bow attack, other bow attack, but each bow attack will be like elementally tied. So you'll have like holy bow attack, you'll have like fire bow attack, poison bow attack, or like the drunk one. And then we learn how we can like customize our build and stuff. And once we get to the knot, then we can create loadouts. And like I mentioned before, you can have 3 loadouts. Each completely different, and you can switch through them on the fly. At some point in the game, I was trying to switch masks, and the game would like not let me. And I was literally just standing by like a knot, and I was like, I don't understand why this won't let me do this. But normally, throughout I don't know if it was just like a weird circumstance, or I could never really figure it out. And it was like at the very end of me playing the game, and I was like, I don't give a fuck. I really didn't switch loadouts that much. Like I Oonga Boonga most of these games, like I just grabbed the biggest like spear or biggest like axe or hammer or whatever, and I just kind of like max defense and stamina, and then once that's all maxed out to like you're not really getting bonuses, and I start putting more into like hit points and stuff, vitality and whatnot. Or no, sorry, attack power, however that works out. And so that's how I rolled through this game. I got this spear from like the first boss in the game, I think, and I used it the entire game. And then I'd switch through like my secondary weapon, which is always like a big club that I like using clubs against bosses in this game, because you like parry and then you just like smash the shit out of them, because they always have like a huge wind up. But the parry kind of like it doesn't stun people, but it builds up like the stun gauge, as I mentioned before. And then you can do like a super attack, and that super attack with like a big club is a lot better than like the super attack with my spear, which is also like a big kind of slowish weapon. Okay. Where is it? Oonga Boonga, yep. So then we just kind of kill our way through here. We enter, so we open up, and the first level is like a beautiful like farm village on like the island of Sicily, right? It's like my home. I'm like, oh goddamn, this is fucking awesome. And there's like sunflowers everywhere, and it's just beautiful like Twilight kind of thing, like a lot of Dark Souls 2, what is that place called, Majula or whatever kind of sentiments there. I was like, oh, this is baller. And so I just wander around here and like explore and kill some dudes, and like you get mask pieces, as I mentioned previously, from like killing certain dudes, and just like going up and down hills, fighting a bunch of dudes. There's like axe guy, gardener guy, and then the other guy, I can't remember what they were exactly. And then there's crabs as well, and crabs are like the only like human type characters. No, I say that slowly because I'm thinking there's like little crabs, and then there's like big boy crabs, and the big boy crabs are awesome. There's 2 big boy crab bosses, and then there's like some crabs that just like pop up, and then like big boy crabs. There's a ton of like little crabs like periodically throughout the game. And then there's a couple of big crabs that have like cannons on them. It's like, no. At some point, we just find like 2 homies standing on a stage, like jaw-jacking with each other. We can't interact with them. We can't attack them. We can't get up on the stage, but they're just there. It's by like the second knot in the game, I think. Yeah, right after there's the first one, and and it's on like some beautiful beach where you can just look off, and then if you look like one direction, you see the beach, other direction you see like a big mountain, and kind of like past that first like big mountain. And big mountain, it's not really a mountain, it's like a big hill, but it's a mountain because you're like on the ocean, and then you're going up to it, but it's really not that tall. And then from there, we climb that mountain and we look across, and we see this like beautiful town, and that's like the main town. Yeah, because there's like the 2 towns. Let me think. There's that town and that town. There's like 3 towns, right? Because there's like 3 areas. But this is like the center, and this is where we end up building our hub after we cruise through the first part. And we get up there and we see this bridge, and the bridge is all broken. And then we learn about these rifts. And rifts, there's red rifts where summon like mini bosses or bosses and stuff. And then there's and when I say summon bosses, it's like there's one boss specifically that is like an optional boss that's like part of how you need to unlock the true ending of the game, or like I don't know if it's true in the secret ending, and also get through some of the side quests in the game. But aside from her, I think you just get it like mini bosses or little scenarios with like a bunch of guys jumping you or whatnot, and then there's like black rifts or yellow rifts, and there's like 3 of those in the game. There's really not that many. And they change the world, and so you enter like a different kind of a realm. And it's interesting because if I don't click on the rift, there's nowhere to go. And then you click on the rift, and then you can like cross this bridge, and after you cross the bridge, you like leave the rift version of the world. And then if you turn around, the bridge is gone. And it's like, oh no, how do I get back? Well, you get back because you just automatically teleport from like one knot to the next. So part of me was like, I mean, that was kind of cool, but I don't really understand what the point of that was. Like, it just seemed like completely unnecessary. And that's a couple different places that occurs. And I think like if I really, really, really wanted to explore, I could have found like more items like without the rifts, but the rifts are required to activate to continue on through the game. So now that we've passed over this bridge, this is where we learn that like every area has like an element assigned to them, and that this area is wine, right? So people can hit you with the wine, and then as it builds up, like I said, it makes you dizzy, I think is what they call it. And then once you're dizzy, you do more damage, but other people do more damage to you. So that can be something you want in a certain build. Like if you're like a dodge heavy kind of build and you're just like hitting guys a lot, like you're using like a dagger weapon or something that has a quick attack speed, then like it's almost like, well, I want to be dizzy all the time. And there's ways to like induce yourself to do that. And you know, with all there's so many builds in this, it's pretty fucking awesome. So you can kind of like figure out what you want to do with that. Let's see, wine. Okay, and then we meet the clown, Pulcinella, and I'm gonna fuck that up a lot, even though I should. Shame on me, because this is like my native language. Pulcinella he's kind of like our guide. He pops up, he's always playing like a lute or like trash talking people or giving us insight on people and kind of giving us the world building. We eventually find out that he's super important to like the overarching story. And like our existence even. But for now, he just seems like some sassy asshole who like makes commentary and dances around and like pops up from here and there. He informs us that this is the city of actors and that it's led by Zani, I think is his name. He also tells us that we need to head to the castle all the way on the top of the hill, and then once we get there, we'll get like more answers about like what's going on and our purpose and existence and whatnot. So we push our way through this town. We meet Curtis, the Prince of Laughter, who's like the first real boss with like a health bar and everything on the bottom of the screen and all that stuff. And like, you know, there's like a knot right outside his door. So if you die, you just like roll back in. And we learn that like, so to use your mask line, it's the magic, you have to like fight. And as you fight, you build up like a gauge. And then, you know, you use the mask line and it drains the gauge for just that mask line. So each mask line has their own like gauge that kind of fills up independently, and some fill up faster than others. But when you enter, this is where we learn when you enter a boss arena, it gets rid of it, which you can abuse sometimes, because sometimes you'll see a boss standing there. Like, so real bosses, like the main bosses, you enter a curtain. Right, so you enter a stage when you fight them. So it's like there's no way to see them per se, because you literally enter like a new arena. Now, a lot of the mini bosses will just be like standing in the distance, and so you can kind of like aim your character correctly, and if you have ranged attacks, which I did this all the time, you can just like pummel them with all your mask lines, and then you roll in, because you're going to lose them anyway. So like, and then you roll in there, and they're just like 2 hits down, and they're because you fucked them over before they could even get there, right? But then and there was a mask line that said it would keep your mask line charges, and I tried using it, and I don't think it did that, because I'd fight a couple bosses and I was like, it's not really doing that. So I just equipped stuff to set up my mask lines to charge like super fast, and then like when I use mask lines, there's like to increase like the chance that like it would just like keep the charge, so you could use it multiple times, or that it would like when you use one mass line, it would charge the other mass lines like even more, so then I could just like bounce around and use like 7 ranged attacks in a row and just decimate dudes. But that was my build. You don't have to do that. There's other things you can do where you can be like really up close and personal and do all that good stuff. Anyway, so Curtis is called the Prince of Laughter. He's in this church. He doesn't really say anything. We just like roll in there and then we beat his ass, and we learn that Curtis was like the greatest actor, I think is what it was saying. And then we also learned that there's this guy Zani, who's like the ruler of this area, and that he hated Curtis because Curtis was like a better actor than him. And so he's kind of like cursed him to be here, or, you know, whatever. And this is the guy who gives me the spear that I pretty much use the entire rest of the game. So thank you, Curtis, and Zani to a lesser extent for punishing him here. Oh, and like the Dark Souls games, the weapons have like, you know, they have like ratings. So as you level up some of your stats, their weapons will get stronger based on like their ranking in those stats. And so the spear starts off as like a C, which is the best strength weapon in the game that we've found thus far. But there'll be other stuff like Adore is like your magic capability, and like stamina. I can't remember what the stamina one is. Anyway. So that's also how you can, like, when you upgrade weapons, it'll increase those ranks to, like, I think the highest I ever saw was A. I might have seen an S, but I don't remember. Okay, so once we kill him, it opens up this area, which leads us to, like, a new area. So instead of going all the way up here and fighting Zani right away, we enter, like, a monastery area, which kind of looks like a poison swamp, but there's no poison swamp business here. But we run into a bunch of magic users, and I think they're called monks, right? And they're big dudes who just kind of like lob stuff at you. It can be kind of annoying because part of the monastery level is like all these vines and stuff you got to climb over. And so if you're not being careful, like they'll get you in a position where they knock you back, or you like try to attack them on the vine and then you like attack too hard and you like roll off the other side. So there's a lot of like gravity is the true enemy this game here for this section. So that's pretty funny. And we learn that from like the books and stuff that these guys are worshiping like some sort of false god. They have like some goddess imprisoned, and they like are worshiping like a false idol of that god or something. And it causes problems because obviously if the god's not there to like help them, then they're just like wasting their time and energy, and they're not getting like what they want out of it. So this is the monastery thing. There's a boss at the end. I come back to this later, but first, I like wander around in the swamps of it. Oh, it does kind of have a poison swamp because there's an area here which is like full of wine, and as you stand in the wine, you get dizzy. Anyway, we work our way back to Quinta through the monastery. And then we learn that Zani was actually the master of Puccinella before, from like reading some stuff and talking to Puccinella about it. And then we get to the top where the castle is, and Puccinella's like hanging out talking to us and stuff. And we have this like, there's like a big theater and all this stuff. And so we roll in there and we find Zani, who is like a complete monstrosity at this point. Like he's got like a giraffe head and he's got this big body that like crawls around and stuff. It's kind of like the brothers in Dark Souls 3, I want to say, if you played that game, where it's like the brother riding the other brother. It's almost like that kind of style of boss, or like a Resident Evil boss, if you will. But we see him like punching to death just some other actor guys and being super angry about everything, right? So he's clearly gone like out of his mind because he's not the greatest actor, or another Curtis really did a number on his brain. And he's kind of a big tool bag or whatnot, so this is kind of cool. So we dodge around, beat his ass, parry a lot, get him down, and once he starts fading away, he waxes all poetic about his celebration and how the celebration's going to end and how it's so quiet now and all this stuff. And he's like, wait, how long have I been doing this? What's going on? Like, he seems like he's coming out of like a drunken haze almost, and he seems to have like a moment of clarity about like what happened and what he's done and what he's become and stuff, and how he's like a monster, and how being a monster, being focused purely on like the pleasures of life, if you will, have made him hollow and not like a true person anymore. And then he mentions to us that in this moment of clarity that his friends are still out there, and he asks us to save them by killing them, right? Because they've all kind of like lost their way too, in his personal opinion. So behind him, we find like a stage. So when we fight him, again, it's like you enter like an arena, and the arena is not like a stage, it's like a big room, and then we go past him, and then we enter like an actual like theater with like, there's like the the seats up top, and then there's the seats on the bottom, and then there's like a knot right in the middle. And this becomes our hub, right? So we played like 2-3 hours into this game, and we finally get to like, here's the hub world. So I thought that was kind of neat. And Puccinella hangs out here, and if you give him like braids, you can like respec like your talent trees essentially. And then here we also find Mercante, and let's see, hold on, we find the last stage in the theater for, and he mentions blah blah blah. All right, so Puccinella tells us about Arlecchino, who is the final boss of the game. But something happened with him, and Arlecchino was Zani's like favorite disciple or whatever, something like that. And then also Arlecchino and Puccinella are like connected somehow, right? And then Puccinella, while he's talking about this, he then mentions that the path past the sunflowers is open. So at the very beginning of the game, when we at that first knot, if you like walk out of the sunflower field, and then you can take a left, which gets you all the stuff I talked about. But if you go right, there's just like a closed gate, so the gate just opens, right? So that's cool, I guess. Like you don't get a key and then you open the gate. You just like it literally like shows you. It's like you can go here, and this will take you to Valencia Magna, which is like a beach seaside village kind of place, right? There's a lot of like military stuff going on over there. Heading deeper into the theater area, we find an amulet, and when we pick up the amulet, it unlocks like these homies that are like merged together. There's Mercante, as I mentioned, who's like a merchant, and then there's like other guy. Anyway, so this unlocks like the shop. He's a shopkeeper, and then it also unlocks like the, what do you call it? I think you could do this before, the blacksmithing stuff, the upgrades to the weapons, and you can upgrade masks, and you can upgrade your mask lines. So the mask lines, masks, and weapons here, yeah. And then they sell like kind of all like the items you've found, and then they talk about how as we find more, there's like 3 or 4 different things, and as we find them, it'll unlock more stuff in the shop because it'll give them more access. They have some bullshit excuse about why that's necessary. They can't just like do it right now. And one of them's in the theater, so we find this statue to like this goddess, and in there we find like a bloody knife or something, and so we go do that. And then as we walk out of Mercante's room, Puccinella, and he does this every time we bring somebody to like the theater, like a new homie to hang out with, he talks about how Mercante was known as the Golden Spider, and that he was the governor of greed, and how there's like a whole thing where it's like he found this amulet and it was like cursed or something, and then he like took it somewhere else, and then they were like being greedy together or something, but because of the curse of the necklace, they decided they were going to steal Pantalone's gold. And and something about that, like Pantalone cursed them with like a golden coin, or I don't know, there was something where like and it merged the two of them, so now they're merged together and they're like 2 in 1, and it's like a giant guy who comes out of the wall. It's pretty cool. We then head back to the monastery to continue searching around there, and here we find the head of the monks, this Vermilio guy, and he's praying to this false goddess, and then he's praying, he like stabs himself in the face and like draws power into himself or something, and then we fight him, and he dies pretty quick. And then as he's dying, he calls out to the goddess again, and obviously nothing happens because it's a false goddess. And there's like notes about that and stuff. Like when you kill bosses and stuff, you get like notes. You can like find notes lying around, and so a lot of this information I'm talking about, you read in like these logs essentially, which is fun. It's not as like it's like esoteric, but not as esoteric as like, hey, what is the rock item's description? Like in fucking Dark Souls. Oh yeah, what about this other innocuous thing? Like, what is the description there? And like, wait, these two things are connected somehow. And then some NPC makes an offhanded comment, and that NPC's like hidden. And then like combining those things together, you like understand the motivation of like a totally different character. Like, oh, okay, now I understand. And so you gotta watch like Zani the Witch, or whatever her name is, or Zuela the Witch. Like, I can't remember. Or one of these other guys to like, because they are like autistically combing through every line of like everything to like piece together like the actual world lore, which is dope. But yeah, okay. If I had a juiced up lumber. Oh yeah. Okay, so at that point it's like, all right, cool. Let's go to this Manya place. So we head back to the sunflower thing. We head through the gate. We kill like this super juiced up axe guy, like a mini boss. And then as we get to like this monolith, which is going to like teleport us over there, Puccinella's there as well. But this time he doesn't say anything. He just like watches what we're doing. So we start off here and we're on like these beautiful like white cliffs overlooking the ocean, like in Syracuse. And so we kill a bunch of fishermen, and then we find the Spaventa gatekeeper. He's just like a boss off on his own doing nothing. I'm like, oh, he's a gatekeeper. This must be where I need to go. But we learn about poison damage here because and it's like Gratia or something, Gracia. And so poison damage, as I mentioned before, is it builds up, and then if you got it, then you get poison damage, but then everyone else around you gets poison damage too. So part of that is like when you fight guys who are like poison damaged, like their health bar is green, you constantly are taking like AoE effect damage essentially against them. So you can need to like defend against that or just like heal and power through that. Anyway, the story with him is that he was left in charge of like a pile of corpses, and the pile of corpses is he made the pile of corpses because he killed anybody who tried to enter the city without like permission. And so I'm like, dope. And so I kill him, and then I look around and there's like, this is just a dead end. Like there's no gate here. Like what kind of fucking gate guard is this motherfucker? Anyway, so that kind of was funny because I like wandered around this area a little bit and I'm like, am I missing something? Is there like a door with a key or something? Anyway, we keep going and we meet what's this guy's name? It's like Custode, that's what his name was. Custode, and he is like, I'm here to find an old friend, Giangolo. And he talks about how he was like the greatest commander there ever was, and he's the last of the Aeneans, which is like the Greeks, right? Because this is like in Sicily, or southern Italy. And that this becomes like a mini quest to like help him find his old friend and like take care of that and make sure that that's all done well. And this place is wild. It's like you gotta traverse down the cliffs to get to the beach to fight like giant crab monster. And so I died here like twice, just like, because it's literally like you look down, and you're like, I gotta jump there, and so you like jump down or you fall down. But then I think I hit like roll one time when I was jumping, and the other time I just like miscalculated which direction I needed to go, and I like fell right off, and I was like, God damn it. So we finally get to the bottom, and there's first giant crab boss, and I was like, this is dope as shit. So that was fun. And then there's two paths here you can take. There's one that goes up into like the mountains and into the cliffside actually, because it's not really a mountain, in like this temple looking place, and then you can go head the other way, and there's like a military camp. So I started by going up to the temple area. And when you get in there, there's another rift immediately, and the rift like changes the way this giant statue is like facing or whatever. And then we start learning about like two gods, like a brother and sister god. There's Veltha and the other one, and the other one I don't remember the name because it's not really that important. But that Veltha is like the goddess of war, the goddess of strife. They like hate each other. There's all this stuff. Something about the other guy was like defending the people. Oh no, she defended the people here and like made them strong, but then they abandoned her, like kind of like we learned in the introduction scene, like the people abandoned the gods, and then she got angry and like slunked off or whatever. And so we fight through this huge temple, and I died a couple times here because again, there's a lot of like gravity is the greatest enemy here. Like you're like trying to jump from ledges or like trying to get across like a bridge, like on this statue thingy, and like going in and out of like the sides of the cavern, and then like guys will like knock you down or whatever. And then there's a red gate, and it opens up the fight to Veltha, and this is what I was talking about. This is like the one time the red gate opens up like a real boss, and she fights just like us. She uses a lot of mask lines and stuff, so she was kind of tough to beat, but we beat her up, and then she like laughed. She's like, oh, I've not had such a good time in ages, or whatever. And then she's like, go ahead and like let's end this. And then she realizes that we're just like a wooden puppet, and she's like, oh, this is very curious. I don't know what's going on here. You know what, let's team up. I'm going to team up with you for now and see where this goes. And she becomes like the main NPC friend at this point. And like when you go talk to, she's like, I'm going to go hang out at the theater, so you can go back to the theater. And at this juncture she'll just like talk about how you need to give her more weapons, or about fighting, or like about the Phoenix Blade or whatever. But what happens with the NPCs is that each NPC that comes back to visit you or live with you, they are kind of like the kings or queens of like their several respective side quests. And as you do other people's side quests, at the end of those, it'll be like, oh, you know who would have more commentary on this? Like Veltha or Magna or Letho or Macante. And so then you go back, and when you complete all the side quests, then you get like their thing. And then when you collect all four of them, that lets you unlock the secret ending. Okay. Let's see. So at this point I go back, upgrade some gear, talk to her. Yeah, she just chills. Puccinella mentions that she is not the goddess of strife, she's the goddess of war. and that her brother hides. I never found this guy. He doesn't exist. We chat about the Aeons betraying her after she like helped them like take over the city or take over this area or whatever. He talks about some river as well, and how she still like will have uses or something, and like, okay, sure, which she does, but right now it's like Puccino is like very sketchy about the whole thing. So then we head back over to her temple, and then we keep moving through the temple. We end up getting to like this giant courtyard with a big statue boss called the Sunken Colossus, and these end up being just like regular bad guys. It's just a tough one. It's like a mini boss kind of character. We take him down, and then at that point, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go check out and see what the other direction is, because this seems like the direction I'm supposed to be going. So the other direction is probably going to have more like sketchy shit or like some more secret mini bosses or whatever. So we teleport back over to the big crabby boy so we can head towards the military camps over there. So this part of the level here in... what is it, False Mania, it's a lot of military camps, and that's kind of the theme of this whole area at this point. So we got the beaches, the cliffs, we get to like the castle portion, and we just get continuous like warrior camps or soldier camps or whatever. So we run through this little camp. There's another one of these like red summoning portals, and this is one of the first ones where the trick is you're just fighting like two regular enemies in like a small arena. Like we're literally on this tiny rock, so it's very easy to fall off. And yeah, I'm gonna not talk about these as much, because after Veltha, like I thought they were like a big deal, like, and they kind of are at first, but then you realize it's just regular enemies plus. And after Veltha, I'm trying to think. There's really never another time that it's like I felt like very impressed with this, and that kind of gives me pause to talk about like one of the things about this game that like this is definitely like. I want to say like a 7 or 8 out of 10. And the reason it's not a 9 or even a 10 is just, it's almost like because they're not a AAA company, they did not have the investment to really go all the way. Like if they had more money, I would say that they could have like really knocked this out of the park. While the way it is right now, it's good. I enjoyed it. And I think I mentioned this before, but I didn't... Well, I said it was easier than Lies of P, but it's also not as enjoyable as Lies of P. Like, Lies of P just kept, like, going with stuff, but it kept going in a fun kind of Dark Souls way, where it's like, the more I unraveled, the more I was like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome. Right? With this, there was, like, moments where I was like, oh, this is a cool mechanic, and then it doesn't really get like executed again. Like opening up the red portal and finding Veltha, I was like, oh, that was dope. And then that doesn't really happen again. And then there's the thing where you unlock Maha in like the cathedral, and you're like, oh, that's cool. You get an item and you unlock the secret battle arena where you can fight like a boss. And then the boss just really wasn't that impressive. And at that point I had that was like post cheating when I fought Maha. But it's one of those things where it's like the only thing I cheated on was like the grind. And so it's not like I was invincible or that much stronger than I was like if I had just like if I at the point where I would have fought this person anyway, like a little bit, because I went a little overboard as I tend to do. But the fact of the matter is I'm not a better dodger or a better parrier because I invested more in Memoria to level myself up, right? So it just, the battle was lackluster, and that's a lot of the boss battles in this are kind of lackluster. Like even being souped up, like there can be a challenge, right? Like you're playing, like when I was playing Bloodborne, there's like I was having a real hard time with like Orphan of Kos. I think I'm not the only one, but I had to play that guy like 100 times to beat him. And even when I went and like, okay, I just got to grind this out, and I grinded, and there's like a trick where you can like double like the stuff in your inventory or something. So I was like cheating to get more, what do you fucking call those things? The things that give you more souls in that game. And even with like grinding and doing all that, it was like the battle was not any easier because, I mean, I'm sure it was slightly easier, but it didn't feel much easier because it's still like if you don't get the mechanics, you're not going to do well. Here, I was getting like, even before like I deleted the saves, I was getting to a point where it was like, this is not really that challenging. Like the Jion Gugolu battle was still challenging in that the best way to do it is really to parry. And so getting the timing on the parry took me like, but it only took me like 2 or 3 times because I feel like the parry system is generous in this, unlike in other games where it's like, you better be fucking spot on, motherfucker. Like, right? But it was a good boss battle, right? But then some of the boss battles are just kind of like, eh. Like the Veltha boss battle I thought was pretty good too. And such. But like the last, like, Puccinella, we'll get to that point. But spoiler alert, I guess you fight Puccinella at some point. But when you fight him, that was like nothing. Like it was like, oh shit, here we go. He took away my masks line. And then I just hit him a couple times with my club and he was dead. And I was like, wow, that was unimpressive. But anyway, okay. So then we follow this path some more, we kill some more colossi, we kill some more crabs. Eventually we get to like the necropolis. Ooh, the necropolis. And this is where we fight skeleton warriors. And one of the things I really appreciate about this game is that they don't really repeat enemies ever. Like they'll be like, there's fishermen at the beginning of False Mania here, but then when you get away from like the fisherman area, you really don't run into them anymore. And then there's like priests in like this temple here, and they're only in that temple, and like maybe one or two are elsewhere, just kind of like scattered about. But it's as you move through it, you run into new enemies with new tactics, and they're doing new things, and there was a lot of time invested in kind of making the world like complicated like that, which I really appreciate, because I played some of these where you're fighting the same kind of enemies like over and over again, and it's fine, because you can do them in different configurations, or like you can do the old standard, like just double them, or have one jump in after the other one's already fighting you and stuff like that. But it's nice that it's just like, oh, there's constantly like new threats that you got to address and get into, and that means there's a lot of masks to unlock. Now the undead have no masks, but all right, what are you doing here? So we work our way through the necropolis, and then we run into this guy who's just like chilling on top of a roof of this like fisher's hut looking out. And we find out that what's his name? It's like Ardeo. Anyway, so he's a monk from like the cathedral place, but he met this huntress who was from this place, and they like fell in love, and they were like doing all this stuff, and then she had to go to the cathedral for some reason to do something, and he hasn't heard word from her. And this is right around the point when I like deleted my saves, unfortunately for me. And so when I played through this again, I spent time in the cathedral I like searched around the cathedral more the second time around, and I found a letter from her to him. So when I got here on my second time playing through the game, I already had it, and so he was like very sad, and she's like, oh, blah blah blah, and he's like, I need some time to process this, and he gives us like a sweet ass sword that I didn't use because I had my spear. And yep. And like apparently the crabs got her and all this stuff and whatnot. And so we leave him alone with that. And then past him is another one of these like mini bosses with their own like arena and everything. And I say mini bosses because they're not one of like. So when you kill guys in this game, and this is like a Soulsborne tradition, you kill like a boss and it'll be like something unraveled or like something defeated or like cinder burned or whatever, right? So in this, when you kill mini bosses, it just says like foe defeated or something, and then when you kill like the big guys, the bosses, it'll say like actor unmasked, and then when you kill the gods, it'll say god knocked down or god unveiled or something like that. So that's cool. So it kind of gives you like information that like, okay, this is like a big deal that this just happened, right? Well, and so Last Breach Defender here is one of these guys that's just like foe defeated, and it's like, oh, it's just a dumb motherfucker. But he's got this huge there's like a big bridge that goes up to this like arena, and so we wander over there, and it's not much to him and whatnot. So okay, sounds good. So then we go all the way. So I'm like, okay, so I've cleared this area. Is clearly the dead end, right? Like there's nothing else over here. I just kind of like knocked all this out. Like the big thing here is really the Adeo and Medea situation, which you need if you want to get like the secret ending, right? Because you got to do that, and then they're related to like the Maha because it's related to love and all that stuff. So we head back to like where we fought Veltha, and it's like, all right, time to go. So we push past where she was at and continue to this big quarry area, which leads to like this more enclosed place, and there's like a forest with a lot of like soldiers and camps around. So we wander around this like ruins that has been taken over by all these soldiers and stuff. And then we run into our friend Custodia again, and he's like, hey, I found Giancarlo. He's transformed into this big like manticore boy, and he wants us to go kill him to put him out of his misery because he did this because he was tricked by, I don't know, Arcanelio or whatever. And so we have a choice here, right? So there's these actors unmasked. Most of them are like the bosses of like the level, right? But Lugolo here is like an optional boss, and he's tied into one of like the side quests, one of the side quests that you need to complete for Veltha's like big side quest arc or whatever. And so we head over there. There's another summoning thing with the mini boss, and we get to the Coliseum. And as we're walking to the Coliseum, Puccinella warns us. He's like, "You better not back off. You better do what you're told. You better not do that." And then we like, "Go fuck yourself." And so he gets super irritated because fuck that guy or whatever. So we head to the Coliseum. Gianco Ololu tells us that we're a trespasser. He prowls around in he's like a big fucking manticore dude. And he tells us that he's going to wipe out our bloodline, which is easy because we're a puppet. So, and then so we fight that ass. And again, like the way to defeat this guy for me was just like parry, hit him with like a super strong attack. And I had to do that like once, and it like destroyed him. And then I had to like hit him a few times, right? And so as he's like laying there dying, he's like, "Oh, I've like awoken. Thank you so much." And then, underneath these masks that we wear, there's like a broken promise or something. And then he warns us. He's like, "Oh, that fucking clown, you be careful with golden tongues and golden tyrants and stuff." And then he gives us like all his goodies and whatnot. So we can, once we get his mask, we equip it. And then we go to talk to Custodi, who's just like hanging out over at the knot. And he's super sad, and he's able to like say his goodbyes to his old friend as we wear the mask, right? So the whole mask thing is like very, like we almost take upon ourselves like the individual is like the mask more so than like the individual under the mask for a lot of this, and that's like part of the theme of the game is like what masks are we wearing and how does that reflect upon who we are, how we act, and what we do and whatnot. And so he's super grateful and whatnot. So once we're done with that, we push some more, we kill a bunch of colossi, get into these ruins, and then this is where we get to like the temple of the priestesses of Veltha, and we have to grind out these fucking masks for another side quest. So we kill like a mini boss, like the high priestess, and then we kill a bunch. We just keep coming back in, 'cause this is the only place I remember like finding these priestesses. So we just got to like walk to the knot, reset, come back, fight them a bunch or whatever. There's another long stretch with a military camp that's right outside this giant tower, and this tower is where Spotventa is hiding out. So we haven't really talked about Spotventa. He doesn't really come up that much. Like a lot of stuff you find around here talks about Veltha and her brother, and it talks about other things, but right around this area, after we get past the Colosseum and like the ruins and stuff, we start finding writings about Spotventa and how he's kind of like a coward, but how he like gathered his forces and like overwhelming odds, like took over this area and like dominated it, and then because he's a coward, he like built this tower that was like completely ridiculous and awful, and he like punished people for not like doing what he wanted, and he sits atop like his tower in like all its majesty, and it's like an eyesore, and Puccinella complains about it, and that he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing and all this stuff. And so we head across this bridge, fight another mini boss. Let's see, taking kind of being an asshole. Yep. And then so we get into the Spotventa battle arena, and he's sitting on this giant throne, like up on a stage kind of, just like talking about how we're an asshole and there's nothing we can do, and he's almighty and all powerful, and kind of like, oh, we came here to die, and he laughs about that and what stuff. And how we must have a great desire to be just killed by him and whatnot. And he's like a big ass boy. And so we fight him, and he does like these jump attacks, and he's got a big swing and all this stuff. So it's a pretty good battle. And then after we kill him, it's like part 2, and I was like, oh god, I hate part 2 so much. I don't like the concept of it. It like drives me nuts. But part 2 is like super easy. He just like summons soldiers, and he runs around and throws grenades at us. And he goes from being like the great mighty hero Spotvena to being the cowardly Spotvena. And it's pretty funny. So he's got no armor. He's like a little tiny guy. Like at first I didn't even notice him. I'm like, where the fuck is this guy? Right? Because I was looking for like him to just be big. And so he like runs away from us. So we got to like kill the dudes he sends, which I'm like one-shotting with my giant spear / this time I'm using the club. And then just like trying to like roll out of the grenades or parry them so that I can like run up to him, and I hit him like 3 times, and that was like enough. Part of the thing with my build too is that when I'm killing his minions, I'm able to like build up my mask lines, which are all ranged, and so he's like running away, but like he doesn't run away from like how far I can shoot my shit. So I think the way I did it was I hit him 2 or 3 times with my like my bow and arrows, and then that stunned him, because they just hitting guys builds up their stun gauge. And then I ran up and used like my club attack, and it just murdered him in like 1 hit, I think. Let's see. So then he hops back up on his throne, and he's like, oh, why me? I'm Satapotamus. And he calls for his guards, which don't come, and then he calls us an arrogant asshole and talks about his legend and how he's legendary and how we're going to destroy his legend and that's the most important thing or whatever. And then he pulls off his mask and like fades into gold dust or whatever as he talks about how great he is. We then get a cursed item that we take back to Mercante to get more goodies from his shop. So these cursed items, as we return them, we can upgrade more or buy more stuff and whatnot. On the way out of Mercante, Puccinello calls him a fraud. As we head out of Spotvena, he calls him a fraud and asks if we enjoyed, bringing him down a peg and treating him like the fraud he is and whatnot. He then introduces us to I don't know if I spelled this right, Litimula? I think it's Lithmulia, which, it does the same thing as when we came here to this place, the False Manana, that it does like, oh, hey, outside the theater, we're going to follow a little video that like takes us down to like these docks with a boat. And then he kind of talks about the masters there and about Pantalone and Balanzone, who are just like these huge assholes that just treat people like garbage and like took over that whole area. And they're just like, whatever. And then Pantalone is a merchant, and Balanzone is like a bureaucrat who does like experiments on people and stuff. And so it's like, awesome, let's head over there now. So we head over there, run into a couple more mini bosses and whatnot, and then Pulcinella stops us right as we're about to get on the boat, and he starts talking about, Pantalone and Balanzone and how his, and then he starts talking about the Arcanello. And about how he was betrayed by like false words, and how like, it's kind of like feeding more as in like the whole point of our existence and all this stuff is because of this other thing. And then he mentions, he's like, oh, don't you think a change is needed? And if you agree, you get like some shitty sword. And we're like, yeah, okay, sure, why not? Okay, so then we hop in the boat, and then we get dropped off in Lidumia. And here we get a fight a bunch of like gondoliers and stuff, and this is kind of like another like swampy looking area, but not like a poison swamp. And we wander out here, we run into like another giant crabby boy boss, and behind him is Fauno. And Fauno is important because once we get Maha, once we defeat her and she joins our team, she's like, oh, I'm lost, I'm depressed, nothing can make me feel again like love and life is worth meaning or whatever. And then we come talk to Fauno, and Fauno gives us a seed, and this seed we take it back to her, and she's like, oh, I am being reinvigorated by like the knowledge that like love can exist or things can grow or something. And then once then we can like start unlocking the rest of her side quests and get all her stuff out of the way. Let's see. So yeah. At this point I took a detour back to the cathedral to like fight her and open up her and get that passage and everything. Anyway, do what she does, side quests. Yeah. Fauno gives him hope in the future, the lover's quest. Yep. So then we can turn in like the lover's quest, essentially, like the one we do with Adeo and Medea. And then once we're done with that, once we're done with all that crap, we come back over, and there's like this giant staircase actually running up to like the city, right? Like in every one of these biomes, there's like the main part, which is the like Garadia and stuff, the city and whatnot. And so we head up there, and it's pretty impressive looking. It's like in Dark Souls 3, there's that kind of city with the can't remember the guy's name, the guy with the two swords who like splits or whatever. That's like a real asshole kind of boss. And it's got a lot of like kind of these like magic fighting ladies in it as well. I can't remember what it's called, but it reminds me of that. And then we run into, what's this guy's name? Did I write it down? He's a big frog boy. And the big frog boy has like this funny mask on his head, and he quizzes us. And the quizzes are like, oh, I like to sing and do something. And then you go get like the actor's mask or whatever, and then you wear that mask and talk to him. He's like, aha, you have figured it out. And we have to do it 3 times throughout this level, throughout this biome. And then, so we do that, and then while we're doing that, we're just kind of moving through this area. We read more about this mysterious leader and all this stuff, the person in charge, how he was betrayed, stuff like that. And then we also read about Pantalone and Balazone, and how they're goofballs. Like Pantalone is just like a greedy merchant who treats people like shit and is all about like backstabbing people and stuff. And then Balazone and him like team up, because Balazone just wants to do like experiments with things and he has like no ethics or whatever, so he's like kidnapping people or whatever. And then they have this lady Moretta who they somehow get like ensorcelled to be their like assassin, right? Which is a big deal because we meet her like lover, who's this other lady, so lesbians, awesome, right? And she sends us to destroy. It's similar to Custode or Custode, where she wants us to free Moretta by fighting her. And Moretta is like she's like a big mini boss because she shows up 3 times. She was like pretty hard the first time, but then the second and third time, I kind of just like dodged her first like barrage of attacks and then beat the shit out of her. So she was actually pretty easy. She went down pretty fast. And then once we finish with her, we just put her mask on, Moretta's mask, and then we go talk to like her lover. And then she's like, can say goodbye and be sad eponymous about all that and whatnot. We also read a lot about how the city was built upon, there was like a mysterious meteorite that crashed into the earth and it had all this like crazy energy and stuff, and that people were drawn to it, and so they built the city upon it. But it was like a curse more than a blessing to do this because of like the eldritch craziness that was going on. And this mysterious eldritch being, if once we do all the Frog Boys quests, we can open up like a boat that will take us to his realm, and he just is like this mask hanging in like this chamber, and he'll come join us in our area. And we see hints of him kind of like around, where we'll like look over an edge and it's just like bright white light, right? And then the priestess here, who has like her side quest, she talks about how like at first it seemed great. They had all this extra power and all these things they were able to access. But then as time went on, people like went crazy because, they were being infested by like this insane creature from like a different world that doesn't even like, the mind doesn't work the same at all. Right. And this is Letho. This is like one of the 4 people you have to like appease by doing other side quests to get like the secret ending. Let's see, Moretta, she's the assassin. The fighter threats. When we finally beat her, take her to her girl, be a priestess. Okay. Yeah, and that the priestess here, for her quest, I have to just talk to her with the priestess mask, which is why I had to grind in the previous level and such. And there's a bunch of like fun little areas here. There's the glass blowers, which are my favorite because you enter like the glass blowers area, and then this guy shows up and he's gigantic, and it's like glass blower something, right? He's like a boss because you get the boss health gauge and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, that's cool. They like blew up one of these like small guys to be big for like the boss battle, but nope. All the glass blowers are gigantic. Like, what the fuck is this about? Anyways, that was pretty funny because like when I started running into them, it's just regular enemies. I was like, oh, they're all tall boys. That's fun. So we head through that area. There's like some puzzly stuff where we got to like lower the water gauge and go to the other areas and like pull more switches and then wander back. And then once we get done with all that, we head over to the Arcanium, the Astrolarium. I think it was like an Arcanium, or it's like an astrologer magic place. They have a lot more books about Letho, about the meteorite, about people trying to access the powers of the meteorite and all that stuff. And then this is like, we got one of the traditional like Soulsborne puzzles, which isn't really a puzzle. It's just like you take an elevator, and if you're paying attention, you'll see that one of the walls just disappears. So then you can like hop in there and you can find some like more goodies. So that was fun. They had 2 of them like right next to each other. So you just get their little goodies, and then you die a couple times, which is literally happened to me because I was like, I think I can make that jump. And then I could not make that jump. So I died. And then finally pushing through all that, we get to the goofballs. And the goofballs are just hanging out in this large chamber full of treasure. It's very similar to Macante's chamber, where there's just like goodies all around. And then they're like, Pantalone is like touching his gold and touching himself while he's touching his gold and talking about that. And Balazone is like looking at some gem, talking about the mysteries of the universe and all this shit. And they get into like an argument about what's more important and what's the bigger deal, and how like Pantalone just wants money, and then Balazone wants money, but for his experiments and stuff. And then after they argue for a little bit, like a goofballs they are, they then notice us. And so like, let's have a competition. We're going to see who can kill this thing first, because they kind of recognize us as like somebody who was related to someone else they know, right? Because they're related to Arcanello somewhat. And so they fight us, and I kill Balazone like in like 3 hits, and then I beat the shit out of Pantalone, and then it's like and then they like fall back. We get a little video, and they're all like, oh, we will combine forces to make this happen, and like we will work together. And so they combine forces and become like a giant person, like so big all you really do is just attack its feet while it like stomps around. And there's another time where I was like, it's like, second boss battle, but the second boss battle was like a joke battle, because I just like, you just dodge out of the stomps and just hit the shit out of it with my giant club, and the guy went down like super fast. Like, again, it's one of those things where it's like, yes, I am cheating. It is completely unnecessary to do that, because, and I wouldn't have if I didn't want to like but it's just like I didn't want to repeat like 6 hours of like moving through this game. I like was able to crunch it down to 2 after I deleted my saves. But like this thing like never hit me, right? And so again, this game is just pretty easy. So once we defeat them, changes as we they're like angry and like they're like, we're gonna get you, and then they come at us and then we just like stab the shit out of the Balstone part, so the whole thing like collapses and starts fading away. And then they tell us that we're just a puppet, that we're not gonna do anything great, and there's no way we can affect the world, and that we need to understand why we were created and just do that and stop being assholes and stuff. And then, you know, they fade away and die. So we're like, yeah, fuck you. And so we get the coin, and this coin is kind of the curse coin that when Pantalone cursed Mercante and his little homie, we got it. So it's like, oh, Mercante is going to be very interested in this. So we head back over to the theater. Puccinella mentions another guy that we must prepare to face and that we need to come talk to him. And this is Arlecchino. And there's like a special place just for that. And so at this point, Puccinella, when we return after fighting Pantalone and Balazzone, Puccinella's like, come talk to me. And if you go talk to him, this will like unlock the end of the game. And at this point, if you want to just like wrap it up, you can go talk to him, and then you can go fight Arcanello, and then you get a choice between like 2 endings, depending on how you do that. But if you are able to complete all the side quests, when you walk up to Puccinella, Veltha will show up, and she'll talk to you first. Which can change one of those endings. You can always get like the bad ending, I guess, or just like the normal ending. But there's like the end, then there's like the non-normal ending, and then there's like a secret non-normal ending. But you kind of, whether you talk to Veltha here or not, will determine whether you can get either one of those endings. Because once you talk to Veltha, you're locked into like the secret ending, but only if you've done all the side quests. So let's see, is there anything else to talk about like that? Going through all the side quests. Okay, so I'm going to go through all the side quests and do that because I've done most of them, but there's like, I haven't unlocked all of them yet because I had to go back and like, there's like 1 or 2 things I like missed. And this is the point in the actual game where I went back and like I was talking about Letho and Maha and stuff as I was going through. But once I got to this point, I was like, all right, I want to get these secret endings, and I actually looked it up because it's like, at some point I'm like, okay, let's just see what's going on with this ending situation. And again, the endings aren't like, like, it's not necessarily like a satisfying ending with any of these games. It's just like, oh, do you go with this guy or that guy? Cool, sounds good. Do you light the fire or do you not light the fire? Like, the end. Like, the rest is like in your imagination. So, let's see. So yeah, let's see. I did the priestess thing here. I finished all Veltha's stuff. Okay. So once I finished all the side quests and whatnot, we approach Puccinella. And then as I do, Veltha shows up and tells us that she has spoken with the others, and she has some like funny commentary about speaking to each one. Like Letho is more like, I think he's fine with this, but I'm not sure because he's crazy. But we all want you to change your fate, because what is our fate? Our fate is we find out, to be like the new body essentially for Arcanello. And so instead of doing that, we can be our own person, because kind of like Liza P, we've like established ourselves as like an independent person, like we're like a real boy now. And so instead of doing what someone else wants to do, we can have our own path in life, and they'll help us, and we can like restart the world here so it's less crazy and bad and whatnot. And that Puccinella is just using us for like his own nefarious purposes and whatnot. So we have to make a choice, and if we make the choice, they'll support us, but it's up to us that we can make whatever choice we want. And at that point, we're locked into like the secret ending or just doing what Puccinella wants, which is to turn our existence over to Arcanello. We'll talk about the endings right at the end. Let's see, because we helped others, or secret, okay. So now we walk up to Puccinella and talk to him. He sends us to Strela Valletta, and this is where we're going to find the twisted mind of the writer Arlecchino, who is kind of like the leader of all this. He's the one who like helped orchestrate the casting out of the gods and all this stuff. And then he kind of sasses us a bit for helping out the gods and Letho and stuff, and says that he'll forgive us, and that we need to forget, as long as we remember that we're a puppet and that we're not like a real boy or anything. So we head up onto the stage, and then right before we head into Strela Valletta, or whatever it's called, the Strela, that all our friends that we made along the way are there, like Custode and the priestess and the lesbian chick and all that stuff. So we can talk to them, and they've all come to like turn. It's like this is like the best part of the ending. It's just like they all like we help them all, and they're all here to thank us and be appreciative of like, you know, I understand that like something now I can move on with my life and feel better about everything. So that's super nice. So we head into this trailer. We get more of a history of Arcanello, how he was like a leader, how he was betrayed, how he like established this thing and the masks and all that kind of stuff. And then we find out that Puccinella is like his best friend or like a brother or whatever, and all this stuff, and that, you know, Puccinella is like, you can finally help me get like my friend back because he's like lost his mind, and that's why there's world's like corrupted, and part of it's because of like the betrayal of stuff, which I didn't get like a firm betrayal from anybody. It just seems like he was mad that Zani was a better actor and then he acted the fool, and then people kind of like cast him out or whatever. And so we get to Arlecchino, and he talks about his creation, or his final act for us or whatever, and how we're like whatever. And then so we fight him, and he heals himself a few times. This battle is actually pretty tough because I'll hit him, and then he just like jumps back and goes back to full health, and I'm like, fuck you. But eventually we're able to get him all the way down through like what's it called, parrying and just like fucking him up with like a super club attack, right? And then once he's down, he starts complaining about how it's impossible. How can an imitation beat him? Like the original is always better, yada yada yada. We then notice Puccinella shows up to like kind of guide us at this juncture, and then we notice he's got like a funny arm, and it's the same arm we have that we've been using to open up like the rifts and stuff. And so clearly we're like part of him, or we're like going to replace him, or he's going to replace us or whatever. And that Puccinella kind of reveals that we were created as a double of him, and then he tells us to just take his hand and that we can fulfill our purpose and stuff. But of course, we're gonna question this. There's some commentary about a corrupted visage that needs to be reset with a new powerful body and all this stuff. Like we're gonna heal his mind by like being his new mind. And then Puccinella's like, you have to do what your maker told you because he's like our maker, and that's like the purpose of our existence. And so again, if you want like the basic bitch ending, you can like talk to Puccinella and agree to merge with Arcanello, which resets the world or gives him like control again and stuff. But in the correct endings, you attack Arcanello, which finishes him off and causes Puccinella to lose his shit. He calls us an arrogant fool, says we cannot supplant Arcanello, how dare we, and then he's going to destroy us for mocking mankind, and then we get to fight this fucking clown. But the first thing he does is takes our masks away. So we don't have a mask, which means we have no mask lines. But like I said, these like secondary boss battles tend to be like chump change. Like I hit this guy like literally 2 times with my club, and it wasn't even like he was dodging or anything. I think he hit me like twice or 3 times. And then he dies, and he curses the fates and all that, and he curses the divine. And then, okay, so here's the difference. So if you made friends with all the gods and did their quests and stuff, they all show up, they like give you a pat on the back, and they open up like this golden teleportation like rift or whatever, and then you enter it with them, and then the game ends. If you don't, then there's still like a rift. I mean, you just pick up, you still kill Puccinella, you pick up his loot or whatever, and you just play it and like wander off. So there you go. And then after we like leave, or like before we leave, Puccinella like reaches in the sky, talks about how much he hates betrayal, and then he's like calls Arlecchino his brother, and talks about how this is his song, how his song ends, his last song. Get it? Like the title of the game. That's that. So that's Enotria. I liked it a lot. Highly recommended. And yeah, it was fun, pretty easy, pretty chill Soulsborne like game that like I like the aesthetics. I like all the extra mechanics you can do. I like how customizable everything is. Boss battles were fun, and the story was all right. So go ahead, and so recommended, highly recommended. Like I said, like a C+B kind of Soulsborne game, but like a C+ Soulsborne's game is like a for most like AAA shit that has come out in the last like 10 years. So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later.